Well, greetings everyone. Welcome to our sunny Saturday in Victoria, 16 degrees, and the sun is shining. It's a really beautiful day. Glad to have you here for our Zoom this month. And we'll do a little housekeeping up front, and then I'll introduce you to our excellent guest for today. So, first off, I'll ask everybody to make sure you have yourself in mute, and we'll unmute everybody once we get into the questions. A little bit more, about our association. Our whole thing is, as it says behind me, helping accelerate the change of sustainable energy future. And in that, we talk about many things. Sustainable energy can be done with transportation. And transportation, your best means of getting around, your feet, then your bike, then your electric bike, then public transit. And then if you got to have, your own personal transit, an electric vehicle. And after that, trucks. Okay? Trucks we see rolling around our neighborhoods all the time. They're very important. They're a very tiny amount of the road population, and pretty much half of all of our emissions from transportation. So they're pretty huge, and that's why we're going to talk about that today. Just before we get to that, I want to remind everybody you're going to be able to see this on YouTube here early next week. And if you're are listening to us today, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You can get in there and see some of the videos we've done of late. We did the electric vehicle update, so you can see what the whole summation of 2023. Really good news for electric vehicles, and in fact, in the entire energy transition, it is one of the bright lights that we have. So it's good to talk about that, and a lot more in there. Plus, if you've got a neighbor who doesn't know what cobalt does for us in our economy, you have a Zoom you can direct them to. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to ask Chris Manuel, sales manager for Lion, to introduce himself. And when he tells me it's good to go, we'll have a look at a video that he's got for us.
Glenn. Hello to everyone out there. Thanks for having me. Nice to be in front of a like-minded community. I feel like I spend a lot of my days trying to preach electric to people, so it's kind of nice to be in a group where everyone is so pro-electric before I can kind of even start with it. So a little bit myself. First of all, I own two electric vehicles myself. I own two standard range Model 3 rear-wheel drives. Both of them completely bare, basically taxi fleet vehicles, as bare bones as it gets. I've driven them from Toronto to Halifax. I've driven them to New York City from Toronto twice last summer. Put over 100,000 kilometers fully electric on myself. I go from Toronto to Montreal at least once a month currently in a standard, like I said, in a standard range 400-kilometer Model 3. So I do not only sell it, I do live it every day as well. So I also am a total EV vehicle nut. There's very few of them I haven't driven on the passenger side. So our friends at Plug and Drive do local drives here in Ontario. I don't know, I think they do some stuff out west as well, but they come around local and they bring all the different models. So I always take advantage of jumping on every opportunity to drive everything out there. My current model of choice that I'm loving is the Rivian right now. So that's my next one on my list. So kind of just a little bit about me and my EV, I guess, personal level. So I do have a presentation to share here, and I was talking to Glenn before this, and I said I got to try to make this not salesy. My title is a sales manager, so a lot of the information I do have tends to come across that way, and I really just kind of want to talk about where EV fits in the medium heavy duty trucking industry more than opposed to where Lion fits in. So try to keep it as general as I can, more than Lion specific if possible. So I'm going to share my screen here. So a little bit about the history of Lion. So we were founded in 2008. We were founded as a school bus company. We were actually started with a diesel school bus, a single frame diesel school bus, basically an advancement in some other ways on a school bus. So there are a few diesel Lion vehicles out there from 15 years ago. We started in 2010 a 3-year development to become an all-electric school bus and vehicle company. So in 2016, we launched our first fully electric school bus. And then in 2020, we branched out from the school bus as well and got into the trucking industry as well. So we launched our Lion 6 truck in 2020, and we've now since launched our Lion 5, and we will be launching our Lion 8 later this year as well. So a little bit about the 15-year kind of history of Lion. It's we've been doing this for a while, but every day still learning for us with it. A little bit about us as the company. So we do have 1,800 plus vehicles, medium heavy duty vehicles in operation in North America, primarily in Quebec and Canada. We've got 30 million, more than 30 million zero emission kilometers driven. One of the things that we do talk about, we are proudly Canadian as a company at heart. All of our vehicles are manufactured in Saint Jerome, Quebec currently. We also do have a facility in Illinois that will do our US bus production as well. So going forward, the idea would be everything sold in Canada will be manufactured in Canada, and then the same for the US as well. We also recently opened our battery factory in Mirabel. Very excited about this. So we actually have our Lion 5 as our first vehicle to come out that has Lion batteries as well. Previously, the only part of the vehicle that wasn't Lion and that we were sourcing was our battery packs. So we have 12 experience in R&D centers, one in BC, in Richmond, and we have 1,300 plus employees throughout North America. So kind of just a little bit about us. One of the things that we also do like to talk about, we are fully electric. So a lot of the other competitors, a lot of the other companies that are in this dabble in electric. They're selling electric to go to that as a future, but they have a fallback on it. We need electric to succeed because that's all we have as a company. So we are 1,300 people that all day, every day is electric vehicles. So a little bit about not only just Lion vehicles, but kind of the vehicles that are out there for electrification now. So you have your class 5, and I'm going to just talk about the medium heavy duty. So there are the class 3 and 4, which you'd see a lot of your Purolator stuff. The Rivian has the Bright Drop. That's a little lower class than where we're at to the medium heavy duty. So when we get into the medium heavy duty class, so our Lion 5 would be similar to a 5-ton. So you're thinking anything where you'd have like an F550 chassis. So you're thinking your 16-foot applications for that. It's a 22,000 pound chassis on it. Next up, we would go to our Lion 6. So these are the ones that we have on the road in BC right now. So that would be your 26-foot chassis, like a box truck, traditional moving van type box truck. And then we also have our Lion 8 tractor. So that's your full class 8 tractor for that. So those are the class vehicles when we talk about. So a little bit about kind of each vehicle and where they fit into electrification. So the Lion 5, and again, I'll try to not to keep it Lion specific, but more this class of vehicle. So you're thinking about anything that could be an urban dry or reefer box. So you've got grocery delivery, flour delivery, anything with a flatbed. So any of the small cab over Hinos or Isuzus you see driving around, any of that stuff can all be electrified. This class right now, we're at 300, and other competitors as well are in the 200 to 300 kilometer range. Most of these vehicles in urban settings are traveling 50 to 100 kilometers a day. They return to the same base every night. They charge overnight, and then they go out. So, and with the grant dollars that are available in BC and in Quebec, a lot of the smaller independent companies that have 1 and 2 of these vehicles would actually be a pretty good candidate for it. So it's kind of where we're focused on. We really need that urban setting. We find in electrification in the medium heavy duty, people get really caught up in the long range. How are we going to go from wherever it be. From here, I hear it Toronto to Montreal, and we're trying to say, let's not worry about how we're going to get from Toronto to Montreal. Let's worry about how we're going to service Toronto in Toronto, and Montreal in Montreal, and Vancouver in Vancouver, and Victoria in Victoria. And that's really the areas that we need to focus on and stop kind of the noise that's coming in about the long range and that, and look what we can do today. So again, with this class, gardening trucks, light dump trucks, so anything like that. So this one here is a dump we're doing mock-up for a municipality in Quebec, I believe it is. So it's got a toolbox behind the dump. So it's a small dump for, it could be any sort of mulch, it could be any landscaping like that. So you'd be probably a 7,000 pound payload-ish with that sort of setup. And again, with the grant dollars, you're not a whole lot different price wise than you would be with a 5-ton chassis on it. So these are the kind of things that we're doing as a company. We only manufacture the chassis, so we count on other companies to do the upfitting. So the dump body or the flat deck or the box. So we're kind of just working through them and the end users on that. A couple other cool ideas for the Lion 5, service truck. So any telecom like that. So again, those things don't travel a long distance. They'll have one distribution center that'll have 10, 12 trucks that'll service an area. There's no reason one or two of those couldn't be electric today. And there's no reason they should be buying future non-electric ones, given the lifespan of that vehicle and the mandates that are there. That is one of the things we do. We always say to companies, do you want this to be your first electric or your last ICE vehicle? Because it's kind of one or the other with the lifespan of it. These are 8 to 10 year vehicles. So it's going to be the last generation you buy if you're choosing to go with a diesel or a gas unit. So chipper bodies, like I said, anything like that. One of the neat things on this is we actually have a cutaway available on here. So what that is that you can have access to the cab through the back, through the cab. So again, if you have a service truck and this actually comes from our ambulance setup. So I'm going to stop babbling for 2 minutes and I'm going to let Glenn throw this video on. So I'm going to just introduce this video a little bit. This is a project that I think is one of the cooler things I've ever seen a company do, and I'm glad to be a little part of it. I get to be supporting it at least. So Demers is an ambulance outfitter based out of Quebec. They wanted to do an electric ambulance, so they came to us and partnered with us to make an all-new ambulance. So instead of just take a chassis and put an ambulance body on it like that is currently done, let's design an ambulance from the ground up to be an ambulance and to be an electric ambulance. So it's just a little 3-minute video thing.
Ambulance, which was long due for a new rethinking.
When Alain and I started talking about this, we were so excited.
We decided to do that with an electric package that gave us the flexibility to redesign the chassis around the patient module, around the need of the paramedic.
This is a place where the people, their focus is all about health. Driving electric truck cannot be better than that.
And it was clear that we had the issue with the ergonomy of the paramedic. We needed to introduce a new design, and we said, let's do a new vehicle, but let's make sure that we don't just do an electric, but redesign the whole vehicle. Lyon, which located in Quebec, were at that time producing electric buses.
We are a manufacturer of electric vehicles, school buses, and electric trucks. We hire more than 1,400 people. We have more than 1,400 vehicles on the roads everywhere in Canada and in the United States as well.
We approached them, and they were open to that discussion. We want to redesign, not having an electric ambulance per se. We want to have a new ambulance.
From day one, this is exactly what we had in mind, making sure that they have the best vehicle out there. And this vehicle, by the way, is an electric vehicle.
So we start with Lyon. We redesigned the patient module.
Comfort of the paramedic is number one in everything we're doing.
So they designed the ambulance with us, and we took the input of the paramedic for the patient module, and we applied that, so we designed an ambulance for the paramedic with the paramedic.
The kneeling of the vehicle is a very good example. You can lower the height of the vehicle, and it's very useful. The whole vehicle basically is very well adapted to the work that they need to be doing.
We had 4 objectives to start with. One is to bring an electric ambulance, clean vehicle, save the environment. Second, we need to do it with a good business case. So having a truck that will last 10 years instead of 5 really help that business case. Third, we want to improve the health and safety of the paramedic. So by introducing better ergonomy up front, introducing the new chair, where the paramedic will be able to do his job wearing his seat belt. This will improve the health and safety of the paramedic. And fourth was to increase the comfort of the patient. Less noise, new suspension at 4-wheel, better ride. So I think we have met all the objectives that we put up front when we start that project.
When you go electric, you never go back. I think the paramedics will be very proud of using electric vehicles to save lives. There's only goods about that.
And I think because everything we done on the module and the electric ambulance package, I think it's going to be a breakthrough in the industry.
Perfect. So yeah, so that it's a project that I think is a very cool project. And the way I only am arm's length of it. We're there to support the chassis. Demers is the one actually selling the ambulances. So, but what they're doing is that generally the upfit of the ambulance, so the box part of it, is more expensive. It's almost twice the price of the chassis, and they end up going through 2 chassis in one box. So at the 4 to 5 year period, that's all a diesel 550 chassis will last. So they swap out the chassis, where we're going to get 8 to 10 years out of our chassis on it. So they're going to justify the cost and that way. So very cool project. These things are going to start rolling out later this year. So hopefully we'll get some out in BC at some point. And to me, it's a no-brainer application for electrification. If you guys are interested, what they are doing is they are putting high-speed chargers at the emergency locations at the hospitals in the Montreal area as the test. And so they're using them for patient transfers to start, I believe. So they're going to use them to transfer while they're doing the transfer. They'll plug in for 20 minutes, charge, and just opportunity charge all day that way. So it's a joint project where they're installing the high-speed chargers at the hospitals as well. So, but just one of the kind of neat, cool things that we're working on. We see a lot of bad press and stuff these days about electric, and it's neat to see some of the things that we are doing as well with it. So, back to the Lion 5. So that's the chassis you saw on the ambulance there. So here's another example. So a telecom company, a small bucket truck. Again, this is an application where these things don't travel very far. Whether it's a hydro company, telecom company, these things are out there everywhere. There's no reason they couldn't be electrified today. Another neat one would be like a 5-in-1 type system, roll off. So again, for a company who wants to have to try to justify the upfront cost a little more, you can use it for many different applications instead of just one. This is good for municipality fleets, especially ones that are in a little smaller fleets who don't have necessarily one vehicle to do each of these jobs. They'll have one that share this type of application. So really neat feature for it there. A little bit about this truck. 800-volt system on it. It's our own Lion battery packs. We are about 300 kilometers of range on it. I think 320 is what our actual listing is, but our comfortable level is in that 300 kilometers range. And again, this will have our Lion battery packs. It's available with only 2 captain seats and either with a standard back or the cutaway back, like you can see there. And then maintenance and anything with our trucks are the same as any passenger electric vehicle. Very little maintenance, full regen braking, 1 pedal driving. Anything you would see with any of the vehicles that anyone is driving in a passenger level is the exact same on the medium heavy duty trucking level. So then, just kind of up the class of trucks is our Lion 6. So this is a 26-foot truck. You would have seen these potentially delivering things out in BC. We have them in Ontario delivering some IKEA stuff for Go Bolt and some companies like that. So this vehicle is designed as a 26-foot box truck. Urban home delivery. We like to say it's where things would be cube out before they would weigh out. So we're looking for lighter load stuff, furniture companies, electronics, that kind of thing. We've seen them in as for municipal vehicles with a flatbed application. So anytime you're moving road signs, things that are bulky but not necessarily overly heavy for it, it's a good vehicle for that kind of application. It's got all the standard Lion looks to it, the blue bumper. The one neat thing that a lot of people tell me they like is the charge lights. So you can see the top three lights do indicate when it is charging, and you can actually see a charge there. So especially in Quebec, when it's freezing cold, they can look out at their vehicles and see what's charging, what's not, or if it's not charging for any reason, you can actually see it from inside on it. So just one little feature. And then we get into the tractor. So this is a market. Our tractor should be out in Q3, 4 of this year, where we're actually delivering them. It's a 400 kilometer. The one nice thing about our electric tractor is we're going to have 110,000 GVWR, whereas a diesel alternative would only have 82,000. So even though our vehicle is going to weigh more than it's actually still going to have a higher capacity to carry on it. So for this, again, we really, really need to focus on what we can electrify with a tractor today. And so whether it's from ports moving things, from distribution centers moving them to stores, to other distribution centers in areas, there is a vast majority of the Class 8 tractors that go less than 200 kilometers a day. And those are the ones we need to focus on electrifying. We need to not worry about those long range ones that are going city to city highway tractors. We'll get to those as infrastructure starts to increase and technology starts to increase. But it's only going to get there if we start doing the ones we can today. So you're seeing a lot of fleets out there, we're seeing it major on the company's end more than the fleet's end, if I'm being honest. So a lot of larger companies putting one or two in their fleets on a Class 8 level, and they're using them, whether it's in, again, Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver primarily, and they're using them just as local for that. So it's a market that's the largest segment of the medium heavy duty trucking is this Class 8 tractor by a wide margin. So it's one that everyone is rightly focused on. We just need to focus on the right parts of it and stop worrying about the big long debates about how long they can go. We'll get there with time and technology. So a little bit about kind of just Lion, but everything that's involved with an electric vehicle, an electric vehicle company, more than anything. And I think a lot of people don't really realize all the different parts that are involved with it. And this could be for any one of them. So there's a Lion Energy part, or there's a charging part. So whether it's one of our vehicles or one of our competitors' vehicles, there's everyone talks about the handshake between the vehicles and the charger. So if we're not doing our own proprietary charger, we have a whole division of our company that is involved in making sure chargers work, involved in speccing chargers for jobs, involved in working with companies on making sure they have the right level of chargers, not only for today, but for their future plans. So we also have a capital and a grant end. Grants and land capital are very important parts. And again, for any part of it, in the early adopter phases. We have our Bright Squad and our Lion Beat. So local service and dedicated service for electric vehicles that are trained and know what they're doing with that, and not just a diesel mechanic who's working on something for the first time, which is unfortunately what you get a lot of times. And then the academy and the assistants, where we try to bring in people and train them. We need to be training the next generation to work on them and know about them for future, for Lion employees, for every employee. So it's a big part of it is training people to work on the vehicles and learn about them as well. So it's kind of just a little bit about all the different divisions, and we have full separate divisions for every one of those within Lion. I get often asked about battery life. It's tough to know. It's tough to predict what 25 years from now is going to look like. What I think I can safely predict is that we've got vehicles on the road that are 8 and 10 years old, that the batteries are still operating these medium and heavy duty vehicles to an acceptable level where they're used on the road. So we're confident in that 8 to 12 year first and second life, and the first and second life will be in the same vehicle. The first life is where it's going to be in that 100% to 90, 80%, whatever it's going to be. And the second life is maybe where it's still going to be a usable vehicle, but instead of having 300 kilometers of range, it's going to have 220, but you're just going to have to shift it in your fleet where you're just going to be able to use it for that 220, but it will still operate that vehicle to an acceptable level. After that, it'll be energy storage. There's going to be a huge market for energy storage. There already is, whether it's wind storage, solar storage, home storage. The Lion 5, for example, has 370 kilowatt hour battery packs on it. Those are massive storage units that will have a value at some, whether it's a financial value or just a societal value to store energy at some point. And then there will be a recycling life at the end of it. So I think pretty safely telling you where we'll be at 25 years with a battery is better than what most competitors can do with the components in their vehicle or their product in an ICE vehicle. So we're confident in where we're going and the recycling and the end life of these batteries. I kind of just throw this one on there, just some of the partners that we've dealt with. A lot of major companies. Thankful for every company that wants to put up their hand. We call them drivers of change. A lot of these companies, you are putting your hand out and being the first one in industries to do it. So that's why we have to work with them, and we call them partners, not customers. And then the one question I do get a lot is how do they operate in the cold? They're built in St. Jerome, Quebec. I don't think I've ever been to St. Jerome where there wasn't snow on the ground. We like to say they're born in the cold. The reality is we operate the vast majority of our fleet in one of the colder environments in North America. So in that northern Quebec area, we have a lot of vehicles. The size of these batteries and the battery management system on it, we actually find the range, if anything, suffers more in the summer because drivers tend to crank the air conditioning more than they do in the winter with it. Our vehicles do have an optional diesel heater, which is born from our bus side. If you can imagine on the bus end, that school bus door is opening and closing lots of times. So we do have a diesel heater to keep that vehicle warm when that school bus is opening and closing so many times. So there is an optional diesel heater for the cab. I don't think I've ever heard of anyone using it on the truck side. It's not needed, and the range doesn't suffer. So I will stop there. And it's a whole lot about Lion Electric and kind of where we're going in this space. It's an exciting space. And hopefully people can kind of look around now and see the vehicles in your area or where you are and say that's something that could be electrified, and that's where we're going with that. These are all cases that make much more sense to be electric than anything else, and as long as you can keep it in that urban local space, there is no other option that makes more sense than electric.
100%, Chris. Thanks. It was a great presentation. I'll lead off with a few questions here before we open it to the floor. As you walk around, especially Victoria, you see lots and lots of light duty electric vehicles. We're also seeing a whole lot more in the class 4, class 5 and up running around our streets. Our municipalities have been particularly good at picking them up. Colwood, gold star for Colwood. You're doing really, really good. Victoria and Saanich are also doing that as well. We're even getting vehicles into police fleets out here. So it's great. You have about 1,800 vehicles produced so far. You have a rough breakdown of how many of those are buses and then bus, box, and semi? Well, I guess the semi you're not producing yet.
No, so the only vehicles on the road right now, other than the buses, would be our Lion 6s. There's a few Lion 8s, which are our tandem Lion, not our Lion 8 tractor, but our Lion 8 straight, which would be our Lion 6, but in a tandem axle. We have a few of those for hydro companies. They were more test ones when we were doing it, so there's a few of those. On the truck side, I would say 250, 300. somewhere in that range on the truck side is out there. And I could be off by a little bit, but somewhere in that range.
Yeah, and probably within about 2 kilometers of me is Cold Star. They have one of your Class 6 reefer trucks that they got from you a couple of years ago. So, and I think overall, I think they're pretty happy with it. A couple other questions. The ambulance, that makes perfect sense. We know more fire departments on the municipal side are starting to look for electric options. Would you pair up with some of the after, box fitters and stuff with one of your, like, probably a Class 8 in order to be able to do those jobs?
Yeah, so and that's where we kind of need the end user to put up their hand and say what this is what we're looking for. We sell the cabin chassis and we partner with it, but yeah, that's the way it would happen. Is it would be a local fire department would through their upfitter who does their bodybuilding right now would kind of reach out to us. So it's a partnership through that. So we're open to it for sure. I know we've got a guy on our team who just does upfitting, and he's kind of a mad scientist. He's always looking for new things to do and new options. So, and yeah, I think the police and the fire, that end, they have tons of service vehicles that are cutaway, the CCTV type vehicles, those types of things, where you could end up electrifying them fairly easily. So it's a matter of getting 1 and 2 in there. There's trepidation, especially on the EMS and emergency sides. Understandably, those vehicles save lives and are out there for emergency situations. So we always be more careful when we're dealing with that industry and understand their needs of it. But that's where we need to work with them and say, this is where we are going though, and how do we get there? We're not going to go from 0 to 100 right away. We need to start this integration, and we need to get some into the fleet where we can use them today.
Yeah, and it makes perfect sense for any vehicle that sits there and idles for a while. So an ambulance is great. They're sitting there trying to improve the health of people that they're taking care of, and yet the paramedics and the people being taken care of are sucking in diesel exhaust. The firefighters themselves, they're exposed to when they're actually in the fire, they have a Scott air pack on, so they're pretty good. However, standing around the truck, they're getting gas the whole time that they're on site. So yeah, going electric makes a ton of sense to protect your own people working for you. I'm just looking through my notes here. So I notice currently you're set up for a CCS2, the North American Combined Charging Standard. Knowing what's happening with the DC fast charging, will you be looking at the J3400/ North American Charging Standard here soon, or will that be something a customer will need to spec?
So right now, we're sticking with what we have, and from what I've seen, the heavy duty industry is sticking with that. When we're speccing these trucks, honestly, right now, we are looking for that return to base application. We're looking for the truck that's going to go and sit and return at the same charger every night. So it almost doesn't matter what the plug is today with it. So that standard CCS2 plug is going to be out there for a long time in it. So all these ones will be supported for years and years, and we may look at it at a future date, but right now that's all we have with it. So we get asked a bunch about it, but like I said, it's sticking with what we can do and making sure that we spec it right and let the customers know right about it right away.
Yeah, entirely correct. I mean, and going to your point about Class 8s with 400 kilometers of range, guess what? 400 kilometers of range is 80% of all the over the road traffic that happens in North America. If you can get a truck that can do that, yeah, you've got an 80% solution. So
well, and the big problem with the charging, the public charging network for a medium and heavy duty vehicle, I've charged our Lion 6s personally at Electrify Canada and Flow chargers. It works no problem. They're not designed for a 26-foot box truck. So the fact that it works is the one time I've done it, I'm blocking 6 or 7 chargers to do it. So again, when we're talking about these trucks, it's a matter of you're going to have to charge it here because there's not really an infrastructure to charge it anywhere else that's going to be convenient today. So again, it's about setting expectations, and that's why.
Right on. Rolling through this. I really liked your one slide there where you talk about, we provide the chassis, we build our own batteries, we have our own storage, we're doing our own charging. One of the important ones on there was, I think you called it Leon Grants, and I like to call it a concierge service because having done a little bit of work for a company, I'm used to doing a lot of working with bureaucrats. I used to be a military bureaucrat, so I went, oh, okay, I can look into this stuff. I can wade through it, and then going through federal and provincial programs to make sure people get their grants, they have it set up the right way, and the entire process is almost built so that it's impossible to get the money. Almost. And that's where we've encouraged governments to turn around, and you need to have someone who knows what they're doing, who can walk the customer through it, so the customer and the government are talking about the same thing. They can both get onto the program that everybody wants them to be on. So if Lion is providing that as part of the service, thumbs up.
Yeah, our grants team's fabulous. They're awesome. They know the grants inside out, and they're so familiar with them and dealing with the government agencies on it. Although there are ones that we're certainly frustrated with as a company that aren't as easy to get as others, and some things like that. Our grants team helps every step of the way, and you're totally right. I look at it half the time and think, I can't even believe what's involved in some of them. So it's nice to have that team that kind of does it, and I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, better to be someone else's problem.
For sure.
I think, and I think the last question I had before we open it up to the floor is your support on the West Coast here. Does that all come out of Vancouver?
So we have a Richmond location, so Vancouver location, yeah, and so that's what we have right now. So we have mobile on a service end of it. As with most EV vehicles, it's easier to go to the vehicle than move them. Most EV companies, so whether it's your Tesla, your Rivian, any of those mobile service, we're no different in that. What we find is that most of the time it can be fixed on the spot, easier than bringing a vehicle with it. So it's supported out of there, but it's supported mobile by people across the province.
Right on. Okay, I'm going to open it up to the floor, and we'll let you ask your questions. Be brief. Have a point when you ask your questions, but be brief, and let Chris answer them.
I just wanted to thank Chris for doing this, and I want to clarify something. I always thought it was Lyon, like the French pronunciation. Is it Lyon or is it Lion?
Good.
It is Lyon if you were in French. I tend to butcher it, and I try not to butcher my French. I have a great respect for the French people on it, so I try not to. So I just call it Lion, but it is correct. When you see the video or you hear people talk about it, it is Lyon.
Well, you're certainly making us proud Canadians, so thank you.
Question?
Go ahead, Jim.
You mentioned that the chassis on the ambulances last twice as long as the regular chassis on the other kind of vehicles. So my question is why? Like, aren't you building out of the same materials? So how come theirs only last half as long?
It's the moving parts. They burn the transmission and the motor. And
Okay.
it's just not worth fixing. They're just so hard on them and the components of it. So it's not necessarily the chassis, it's the mechanical. And I guess I should have clarified, it's not necessarily the actual chassis, but it is the mechanical parts of it. They're just hard on the vehicles.
Okay, thanks. That makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah, until another question comes. I mean, especially if you have if you've got a use case where the vehicle is having to idle a long time. Man, that is money going out the pipe the whole time. Electric is just so much better from your operations and maintenance point of view. Okay, sorry, hand go up again there, Jim. Okay.
I forgot already. I was just listening to what you said. And thought, oh yeah, that's great. Sorry, mate. It'll come. Just give me a minute.
Right on.
Oh yeah, I remember. Has anybody approached you about campers, recreational vehicles, that kind of thing?
So we haven't yet. You'll probably see that more on the lighter end. You'll probably see that more on the class 4 end. Just the price difference of those vehicles make it more attractive for a camper on it. So I think you'll see. We just had the Work Truck Show in Indy, and Rivian and their Class 4 did a partnership with Morgan where they've got some upfits, and you'll see some camper upfits and stuff like that in that class. I think it's an amazing use for electrification. The challenge you're going to have is that a lot of those camper people want to go far. So, yeah. Yeah, I've charged my own car at a campsite, plugged into a regular how my level 1 strung across for 3 days. But I'm willing to do it. Are the masses? That's always the question with that, right? It's you can get the early adopters and the people who are really want to. Can you get the masses that are willing to on those ends?
Well, soon they won't have a choice.
You are right.
Chris,
Yeah, and
I have a school bus question for you, and I was delighted to learn that our local school districts, Souk School District, acquired 8 electric school bus. Very disappointed when I learned that they were sourced from the States, though, and also that they're located in the Western communities because the so-called bus barn or storage yard is where they've located the charging units. They've since acquired 5 more and are working to put charging out here in the Souk end of the district. Are you getting many in the on the West Coast selling school buses?
So I unfortunately will not be able to answer a school bus question, just because I can't. I'm not on that team. So we do have my counterpart on the West Coast that does the school buses. I can tell you that school buses are the perfect application for electrification. There is no reason anywhere in Canada that any region is not buying an electric school bus. The fact that they're still buying diesel school buses is really crazy. It's been shown to work, whether it's ours or another school bus. Unfortunately, those ones weren't ours. I'm sad to hear that out there. I mean, being proudly Canadian, we hope that all the Canadian ones try to support us as well. But the school bus end is frustrating. I know on our outside of the province of Quebec, we just don't have enough penetration, and a lot of school boards just aren't getting there. So whether it's a funding thing or what it is, I can't really answer it. But that one to me is the no-brainer of no-brainers. They should all be electric.
And they should be buying Canada.
yeah, totally. Any of you can, when this video hits our YouTube, you can send it to your local school board. Feel free. Okay, I think, Mike, did you have a question?
So is that the voting question? I have no idea. That is a good question. I do not know. That is a good question. I know we are very focused on what we do. We get asked to do lots of different stuff all the time. So potentially, but we struggle to get out sometimes what we're trying to get out as it is. So we need to focus on what it is instead of other sectors. So the boating is definitely another one where that's a great electrification segment. You have smaller vehicles that aren't traveling a ton of distance. They should all be electric.
Even to the point of looking at canal boats, things that don't necessarily go a long distance, but they carry a pretty good load, and they probably spend a lot of time just idling at various stops along the way. It seemed like an ideal opportunity for people who work with these boats to approach Lyon and come up with a solution.
Yeah, I think the solution for something like that will probably be a lot of retrofitting. I think what you'll see in an industry like that is there's not enough sales of new units to get the R&D to do it. You'll probably see it come from the third-party people who start to electrify existing ones, at least to start, would be my guess. I'm not a ton familiar with the boating industry, but I know the quantities needed in the trucking industry to justify the development of a new vehicle, so I can imagine.
Yeah. Any other good questions? If not, I think we're going to thank Chris for his time. You can stick around if you like. We just go into a general shooting the bull sort of session after this. But yeah, electric sale. What was that? But yeah, well, I'll thank you for your time today, Chris, and you can hang around if you like. Thanks.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for having me. It's dinner time here. I'm gonna go do that.
Right on.
Thank you guys very much.
Bye.
Appreciate it.